I'd like to call the Grosville Airport Commerce Park Commission to order. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Filarski, would you lead us in the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 2 is roll call. Mr. Moran is here. Mr. Rathel. Here. Mr. Van Oz. Here. Mr. Tanova. Here. Mr. Mans. Here. Mr. Filarski. Mr. Hornby. Here. Item number 3 is additions or deletions to the agenda, and we've got 2 changes. I'd like to remove item number 4, which is the approval of the minutes, and add as item 6A a presentation from Angela concerning our marketing report.
So move as amended.
Motion by Mr. Rathel. Support by Mr. Mans. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Motion carries. Item number 5 is the financial report for January 2019. Everyone should have their financial report in their packet, and we have a budgeted revenue of $977,957. Our year-to-date revenue is $687,308, which equals 70% of our budget year-to-date. Our yearly expenditures are budgeted at $977,957. Our year-to-date encumbrances and expenses are $725,122, which equals 74% of our budget. Our capital reserves as of the end of January are $613,599. We have past due rent summary as of February 13th of $9,804, and our pending legal action is $10,118. With that, Mike, is there anything you want to point out in the financial report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a few items to add. The fuel inventory numbers, we were getting a load of fuel in when this report was getting created, so I waited to put them on there. The avgas is what we got, a fresh load of 4,000 gallons in, so that's sitting at $30,674 in inventory. The Jet A is getting low. We'll probably need to do a half load, possibly before the end of the fiscal year, but that's currently sitting at $7,026. You can see our capital reserves are going up slightly. The budget is close. You know, we were projected to need to dip into our capital reserves to balance the budget for this season with some of the capital improvement projects going on. I'm going to try pretty hard to balance that budget here at the end of the year. I think it's going to be really close, so we'll see how we shake out next month. Reporting back on the pending legal action settlement plan. The previous meeting we discussed making sure that was all written off, reporting back that the Savvy Advertising and Firebrick are still on the records, and about half of the Dance Grows Eel was written off. I think it was a year and a half ago. So talking with finance, I plan to write that off. Our fiscal year starts new April 1st, so we'll write that off next month before going into the new fiscal year is the plan there. That's all I have.
Anything new with the past due rent in any of these?
The Vasquez is still on a payment plan and is current with that plan. Deacon should be settled here by the end of the week. That's standard, unfortunately for them, but they always pay. The Tomasic one is still booted, and the TSC construction will probably write off with the rest when I do those. That was kind of the disputed last month rent. They're supposed to. We asked for a 30-day notice, and they weren't willing to pay it. We've been going back and forth, and I mean that's been sitting stagnant for about 6 months. So I don't see us collecting that. We don't really have a lot of leverage there. We'll probably write that one off as well.
Thanks, Mike. Any questions for Mike? No questions. I'll entertain a motion to receive and file the January 2019 financial report. Motion by Mr. Oz, supported by Mr. Tanova to approve the January 2019 financial report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Motion carries. Item number 5 is the manager's report. And the first item, item A, is a report from relating to our marketing. And has everybody met Angela? Everybody had a chance? No.
Very nice to meet you. I'm Angela Secokis. I'm the DDA director, and I'm happy to be working on marketing projects for the airport and Commerce Park. And Mike and I have been taking a look at things for the last couple of months and really bringing me up to speed, doing some brainstorming and taking a look at what we could possibly do here to promote the airport and add some events and just tying together some of the Commerce Park and some of the airport tenants that we have here, and looking at different ways that we can grow and promote Commerce Park and potentially bring in new tenants, new lessees. So tonight I just want to touch base and kind of bring you up to speed on some of the event and promotion concepts. I understand last meeting Mike brought you up to speed on some of the brainstorming and things that we've discussed. We've looked at a couple of different areas. The first one is kind of a community appreciation and outreach concept, something to bring in the community, remind them of the great facility we have here, the history behind it, and the first of which would be we're thinking of drive-in movie night. We've done a few of these movie nights throughout Macomb Street and Recreation, and they're always very well attended. So what better way to use the incredible space out there but a drive-in movie night? So we're looking at an inflatable 30-foot screen, FM broadcaster, popcorn concessions. Maybe we can do something including a flyover or helicopter rides. And the preview before the feature film would be a devoted slideshow talking about the history behind the airport. It's a great opportunity, especially with some of the young families who are newer to the island, and filling them in on all the history and everything that's going on here at the airport and what's been going on here for the last 90 years. Potential dates: Saturday, July 20th, August 24th, or September 14th. I'm really leaning toward that August date. I think that would probably be the most well attended. And the approximate cost for something like that would be about $2,500. That's on the high end. That depends on what, some of the other things that we might offer in conjunction with. If we did something as simple as a drive-in movie night and just really promoted that, it would be a little bit closer to about $1,500.
Angela, would you only do that once?
The idea would be we would do that once and see, kind of how that went, and potentially do that multiple times the next season. It would be something, too, that we would be looking at. So with the DDA events that we've done, last year we did 4 movie nights. We're looking at scaling that back because late September is a pretty tough time to do it because the weather's pretty unpredictable, especially out in the airport runway. So that's why I'm looking at August. I think that would probably be the best weather. And I want to make sure it doesn't interfere with any of the other events. I know the Recreation, I've discussed it with them, but this would be something really different and unique to the airport. We could open up the hangar and potentially have concessions in there. Still very simple, very manageable, not very resource intensive, which is key, but an opportunity for people to to showcase the airport, and it would really be all about the airport and then kind of the event behind it. Yeah.
Angela, are you thinking of cars or just sit on the ground?
We can do both. We thought to make it really unique, it would be cars. So the drive-in, the company that I've worked with has a 30-foot inflatable, and I've done a little research. Typically that is feasible for an event that would host about 100 cars. Not many more, but I think we would probably not get 100 cars on the first event. I think if we had, maybe 50 to 100 cars, and then people would also get out of their cars. But they can offer the FM broadcaster, and then they would also have the sound system. So people can sit out and around, blankets, chairs, but then they can also do the old school car drive-in. There's a few drive-ins left, but there is one that's really kind of taken hold out in Plymouth it used to be the CompuWare Arena. I think it's USA Hockey Arena now. And it's a great way to use the space off-season. And the parking lot, they bring people in. They do double features. And I think they run them Thursday through Sunday nights during the summers. But there's a lot of potential there down the road if it goes well. And the idea for this would be that we would not take payment on this event. This is kind of more of a community outreach and appreciation. But, like I said, there's a concept for down the road. The second idea is a Navy class reunion. We're coming up on what I understand is the 50th year of the last graduating class. And I have been in contact with a few people who are interested, and we could kind of work with them and maybe allow them to volunteer and reach out to that community of folks. perhaps provide a continental breakfast or a catered lunch and honor the Navy officers from 50 years ago. There's a Facebook group that was recently started, so I also reached out to them. Yes, I spoke with Stanley, one of the gentlemen who is an admin, and he's out in North Carolina, but said he'd be willing to offer as much help as possible. And I am also in contact with a few local folks who were in that last class and were subsequently transferred out. So I think that would be a really nice way to promote the history side of the airport and really bring a lot of pride to the location. So I would target the fall for something like that. I would say probably September or October, because that would take some time to continue to reach out to some of these folks because they're not all on Facebook. And, so we would need to get creative and find some different ways to reach out to them. And again, this is an approximate cost. We were trying to put this together for budget season, but $800 to $1,000, depending on what we offered. I mean, that could be a lot less. That could be a little bit more, depending on how we wanted the event to go. But the idea of that too would bringing them together and talking about it locally, and really, just promoting the history behind the facility.
And would this be just a expense with no revenue as well? Correct.
And the idea would be that we'd have the local news sources there talking about the history of the facility and what the facility offers. And then next we broke it off into business development. So looking at, a media blitz for some of these facility improvements that we're looking at doing over the next several months. Once we're assuming the Valio deal comes through and it's solidified, then putting out a standard press release and talking about that in the spring, and then really publicizing the Building 63 development. Provide articles, pre-written articles to some of the local magazine publications. I work with all of them also, and have worked with them in terms of the DDA events, and I can put together some point of interest piece so that it's not advertising dollars going out, but it's an interesting piece for them, a feature article, and they like that when that's easy to put in. They run on a quarterly basis or a seasonal basis, so that's something that we'll have to start prepping soon. Advertise the office space vacancies, maybe June timing. Just in terms of local publications, the Profile, which was the old channels, include the event. The Today, which is another magazine, and then other special interest coffee table magazines such as, Metro Times, Metro Parent, Downriver Business, some of those. Maybe expand our horizons a little bit outside the Downriver area. It's still print, but they all offer multimedia news opportunities too. And then updates to LoopNet, which I know you're already on, Craigslist, which I know you've been on in the past, and then there are other venues such as ShareDesk, which would be nice for some of the office spaces. That really promotes, it's kind of a new-ish concept where folks who are working from home, but once or twice a week they want that office environment. So maybe really look at something like that. And then reconnect with past interested parties. I know at some point or another there have been other parties that have come in, been interested in the space, maybe weren't ready to pull the trigger, so maybe we can reach out to them, reconnect to them, especially after the construction and improvements are done. And then hit social media, a variety of places, Facebook Marketplace, LinkedIn groups, buy-sell trade, special interest Facebook groups. That's really probably more so for the small office spaces, but there's a lot of avenues from that kind of word-of-mouth piece. The second idea for business development on a very small level, again, is just offering a small bird dog referral program to current tenants for referrals. There's a lot of chit-chat that goes on Facebook and on a lot of these groups, but then there's also these networks. I'm on the Destination Downriver Coalition, and I was talking the other day to one of the folks who's also on that group, and they had no idea that we had office space at the airport, and on a smaller level. So just really kind of getting out to some of those groups and networking with them. And some of these folks here that are already tenants in the office space might be helpful in networking that. Then host an open house, open to the public, and invite the business community and current tenants. So once the improvements are done, I think really plan a nice event so that it's open and it's open to the public, open to the community, but by way of bringing in new business and showing what we have to offer. Number 4 would create a new brochure or a woo packet, which Mike liked that term. I don't know if that's a technical marketing term. I've always used it. But just something so that when folks are coming in and they're interested in the space, whatever the space may be, if it's light industrial, if it's commercial, if it's office, we have something that they can leave with that shows the dimensions, shows the options, the rent once, that's decided upon, and just kind of, why we're unique as opposed to any other office space or any other light industrial space. Just a takeaway. So something simple. That can look, I've worked in an environment where we've put together a full-on, folder and a template, and it has flyers and brochures and everything else. Then we've done it as simple as a referral card or business card. So anything in between, we can come up with something. And I think should talk about the history of the airport and then kind of what the island offers in terms of why we would want someone to bring their business here. That I would target all of that for the summer of 2019, starting in June. And the approximate cost of some of those is anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000, depending on what advertising venues we would want to go with, if any, that cost money. And then tenant appreciation and pilot appreciation, taking advantage and capitalizing on what we already have. So in terms of tenant appreciation, a simple quarterly newsletter, nothing that's too cumbersome. It would just be some, simple one page just to generate that community feel. Second, a survey to start out and just determining kind of how we're doing in terms of tenant relations and what, if there's improvements that need to be made or if not, and what the feedback might be and if there's anything that we can do on that end. I know that might open up a can of worms. I've done that. Yeah. But I will say we approached a survey with the DDA. We were a little bit nervous about some of the feedback we might get. In all reality, if we get 10% of the tenants to respond, that's a pretty good number, and we might get one or two good ideas. But at least we're checking in and asking, because then we can set metrics and set a bar of where we want to be. So it's certainly, my feelings don't get hurt easily. And so if I look at some of these responses, like I said, with the DDA survey, there were a lot of really entertaining responses, but I was able to pull a few things away, and then we were able to make some good changes, I think. So number 3, partner with existing airport tenant lunches. I know that they go on already. I know at least 2 or 3 a year I've seen their invitations. So in some way, shape, or form, see how we can partner with them just to create that community feel and have that partnership a little bit. It could be anything as simple as bringing some merchandise, that has the airport logo on it or something like that. Host a biannual tenant meet and greet. So something, again, simple, but it creates that they're all in an office space together or all in an office park together. So give them the opportunity to meet and greet with each other and say, hey, this is what I do, this is what I do, maybe we can do something together. And we're just giving them the platform for that. Very basic. So that could potentially be a cost or not at all. We could pick up coffee and donuts or just give them the opportunity to set the date and give them the space. So the cost of that might be about $250 is what I estimated. And then the pilot appreciation ideas, offer a combination fuel and freebie offers quarterly. We've talked about doing this. We've even talked about doing this in combination with the DDA in terms of saying, hey, okay, fly in, you fuel up, get a gift card for one of the local restaurants, or we'll provide options for transportation or, courier service, things like that. So really putting something like that together. Connect with the Airport Advisory Committee to offer affordable seasonal luncheons to network. So again, it's just like the tenant appreciation, just giving them the platform so they all network together. Spring, summer, fall, and the approximate cost of that would be about $850. And then lastly, plan and promote fly-ins with pilot associations and special interest groups. There were some really cool ideas when I was brainstorming, just looking at what some of the other airports do and what some of them offer. I don't know what the take rate is on some of those, but they're pretty easy to put a package together. And we have a lot to offer here in Grosse Ile. So really kind of bringing in those groups from time to time, I think would work really well. And then in summary, we're looking at potentially a budget of up to $7,200. And that's kind of what, we're throwing ideas around, and I don't think we're looking for approval on budgets at this point, but just trying to really gauge what we want to invest in the marketing and promotions and events side of things as opposed to anything else. And that would include the events the business development budget, and then any materials, any materials like a WOO packet or brochures or anything like that. So that's what we have today.
Thank you. Anybody have any comments or questions for Angela?
Great job.
Yeah. Or-
First time in 10 years we've had a market survey.
Good, thank you.
Nice job. And,
Thank you,
Thank you, Angela. That was wonderful.
I think, Mike, you should obviously work with Angela and figure out how to move forward on these items, and maybe lock in. We got a budget, but lock in the cost maybe, and as that gets put together, bring it back to us, and we'll approve it and move forward.
When I first started here, we actually had a budget of $6,000 in each cost center of the Commerce Park and the airport. We throttled that back a little bit to about $4,000 per, and then this year with all the capital improvements going on, we shaved that to $0. But then obviously with a lot of those capital improvements out of the way, we're going into the budget season here. Something we can tie in right now and look at, if we get an estimate that we think is doable.
How about, we got any photo shoots planned for any of the hangars?
Nothing
Maybe we
right
could
now.
use some of that money.
Well, that would
Now,
go
we-
into
we-
the NAS Memorial Fund, but I mean, that's a good try.
We had one photo shoot about a month ago for 500, but other than that, the photo shoots are pretty quiet in the winter.
You do. That is excellent. That's. What? I just want to go home now. I'm so excited with that.
We got a marketing plan and a
I
landscape
mean,
plan.
we got a landscape
Yeah.
plan. We got a marketing plan. We got money in the memorial fund. We got good construction plans going to generate revenue. I mean, my gosh, this is.
All right. We will move on to item number 5B, which is the Valio negotiations update. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a brief update. Speaking with the commercial real estate broker representing Valio, I have been informed it's still in process, but the regional team and the team in Germany have selected our location. They're waiting for final sign-off, so it's not a done deal yet. We're still waiting for several approvals. I guess that goes to Valio in France for final sign-off. The broker is hoping to have that yesterday for us and still does not have it today, but wants to, his plan while waiting for that is to start putting together a lease. So I think that negotiation is going to start there, and when we get a rough draft, I'll definitely send it along to the commission for review, and I'm sure there'll be some back and forth between the parties. And I will update if we do have the final sign-off. Where it sits right now is we've pre-negotiated a rate, and then the construction costs basically it would be like a build-to-suit style deal where we'd be responsible for the basic necessities, a dividing wall, heat, electrical, basic lighting, anything that is specific to the company. They want air conditioning, couple overhead doors cut in above what we're already going to do, vestibule with a glass door. We would incur the cost and build it, but would be paid back through the lease. So those, we need to hash out the final details, obviously, in the lease agreement and that stuff, and I hope to have that to the commission soon. The one specification in their negotiations is a June 1st start date. Obviously, as they continue to kind of hold the time on the contract, we're getting up against a wall for construction season and that kind of stuff. So that's something I need to talk to the architect about and whether that date's feasible moving forward if we do get the approval. So that's in play. I should have an update hopefully by the end of this week for the commission on it.
Thanks, Mike. Any questions on the Valio lease? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 5C, which is runway 04 PAPI update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This actually goes back to our runway 422 reconstruction project that we did 2 years ago. I've brought this up a few times in the past, and I think we are finally on the path to a solution. We have a PAPI light, which is a precision approach indicator. So if you're coming in, it's got 2 red lights and 2 white lights. If you see all reds, you're too low. If you see all white, you're too high. You want to see 2 red and 2 white. There's been a dispute with the FAA and us when we reopened the runway on getting those certified by them. They were claiming there were some trees visible on certain aspects of the flight path. The way to get rid of that is either to trim the trees or install a small metal baffle that would block the light. So obviously we elected to do the baffle and not mess around with any additional trees on Round Island. We're having some discrepancy again with the FAA. Their rules have been changing over the course of this year and getting those certified. It's taken us a full year just to find the proper contact in the FAA. I am hoping to have this problem closed out by the end of this month. We have the FAA actually coming on site and is going to oversee the installation of additional baffles. And then hopefully we'll pass that flight check and get those reopened for our pilots. The only issue I've got on our end is the FAA has paid for the 3 flight checks that we failed so far. The 4th one is in contention on who's going to fund that. The state feels the local party, us, should be responsible. The FAA was willing to allow the state to pay it through some block grant funding. So we're trying to hash that out right now. If we had to pay for it, it'd be a few $1,000s. I'm trying not to incur that expense because of all the discrepancies between the FAA and us. So I'm hoping to have that settled out, but I'll have an update for you at the next meeting.
Any questions for Mike? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 5D, which is Building 63 storage update.
Just a brief update on this. The storage facility, if you recall, we tried an initial 1-year management agreement with them. We are elected to extend that to a 2nd year this year to see how we did. The building is full. We're generating revenue. This past month was better than the previous deal that we had in terms of revenue because our portion share is higher. We were getting 55% instead of 50%, and they're covering utilities. So I expect this year to be on par with our best year with the previous management agreement. They could not fit another boat or vehicle in that building right now. It's full to the max. So they're on a month-to-month agreement. We've left them there while we try to figure out what build-out options we want to do in Building 63. So.
Mike, are we going to move those over then to the other building?
That would be the plan. I think that's still up for discussion amongst the commission. Depending on how the build-out and Valio settles, if Valio doesn't come through, we could do the build-out and have them retain the other portion of the building because the build-out would only be about 1/3 of the building. And then we could open up the other building as additional storage to maximize revenue because right now it's vacant. So I think that's something that's definitely feasible and should be looked at.
Questions for Mike? Hearing none, we will move on to our action item number 6, which is the Fuller Frame Photography Office lease. We have a resolution before us that reads, based upon the recommendation from the Grosse Ile Airport Commerce Park Manager, the Grosse Ile Airport Commerce Park Commission hereby approves a lease between Fuller Frame Photography and the Grosse Ile Municipal Airport. A formal lease will be developed pending approval by the Commission. Terms of the proposed lease agreement are listed in the history, purpose, and explanation section of this resolution, and that indicates that there will be a 1-year lease for how many square feet, Mike? Is it 180?
188 and a half.
188 square feet. I will entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Van Oz, or by Mr. Filarski. Any discussion? Any comments, questions? Hearing none, we have a motion by Mr. Van Oz, supported by Mr. Filarski. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Item number 7 is our subcommittee reports. We have none tonight. So we'll move on to item number 8, which is our discussion items, and that is the Building 63 subdivision. Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In front of you guys, you have a packet. I included a breakdown of what's all included in there. This is really just the presentation we got back from Cernak and Associates. So what you're looking at is the basic construction drawings and the estimate through their contractor to do the subdivision. Now I asked them to basically do a full build out. So this is brand new concrete driveways, all the 14-foot overhead doors, all new electrical, and then every dividing wall on all 8 units shown. So that came to $890,000 is what the estimate through that was, and we paid that contractor to put that estimate together. So that's basically what they would be willing to bid on a project. Now, I do think there are ways to cost save on this by not putting all the walls up, leaving a larger unit, making it easy to throw up another demising wall, not installing all the toilets right away, but having it stubbed. You know, I think there's some ways to make this a little more affordable if we don't feel it's in our budget. Cernacki and Associates, in discussing with them, did feel the estimate was a little bit high. It comes out to about $55, $54 a square foot in that ballpark for construction. So, you know, the next steps, if we want to move forward with this project, are to finish up the construction documents and get pre-bids and go out and see how we come back on the rest of the bids from different contractors. So I think we can walk through the documents if you guys want, and I assume we looked at the cost estimates and all that, but we can start, I think we can start with the drawings. The first drawing there just really shows the addition of the new construction of the driveways on the north side to tie into the existing roadway. You want me to put them up there?
Mike, can you put this on the screen?
Sure.
And then also have them explain where this building is in the park. People on TV won't know really where it is.
And Mike, before you get into that description, can you just give a brief outline of where this is located?
Sure. So this is our building 63 in the Commerce Park. We have 2 primary large warehouses. There's 6162, which rides on Grow Road. That's on the frontage there. That building's 68,000 square feet. This is the building to the north of that. This building's 43,800 square feet. You can see it off of Meridian Road. And then there is an asphalt road that runs to the north of the building that comes off of Meridian. This is the eastern portion of Building 63, the facility there. So we're looking at developing 8 units in the eastern portion, taking up roughly a third of the building. We can kind of come in here on a couple of the units.
So this would be roughly 15,000 square feet.
Correct. And you can see these are the 8 different units. We did just to show it, we did a drawing with a couple different options and setups on it. You can see each one would have a 14-foot overhead door. This space in particular has an office build out just to show you what that would look like in there. Each unit is roughly 2,000 square feet, comes with a tall ceiling and a 14 by 14 foot overhead door. This drawing just shows the new construction of 3 driveways tapping into the existing roadway there, going out to Meridian, because they would need access. There's currently grass in that location. This drawing here is a demolition drawing. So this would include saw cuts inside the building, any groundwork, and then demolition of existing structures. There is 2 office spaces inside this, and they're really like a manufacturing manager's office interior. So this would get demolished here. The roof hatches over here. We'd probably put in a ladder or something along those lines, but there is a bathroom and office space there. It would get demolished, as well as this portion of these offices. There's additional office space to the west, but we'd probably only demo the part that we needed to develop these 8 units at the time. These 2 locations here are previous pits that were inside that facility. They've been cleaned out and just have stone compacted in there, so we would just cap that with a 6-inch concrete cap. And then the line you see down the middle here is the saw cut to run the plumbing down the center of the units. Again, we don't have to necessarily install full bathrooms in all the units. We can have them stubbed, but I think it's a good idea to at least have the stubs in there for future growth. So that's one potential cost saving. The other I mentioned is not putting up all the walls. We can look at that 2 different ways. So we can have 2 units with no center wall and leave a 4,000 square foot space, but then have the meters in the wall easily set up to go. What I don't want to get into a situation here is if we have, one wide open space and it takes us 2 months to get a tenant's unit set up, or 5 months, whatever it is, I'd like them to be pretty easily set up and ready to go. The other option would be to remove this wall and just have 4,000 square foot units to start and divvy them up as we go, so that demising wall could go up quickly. Last drawing's a little more complicated, but this is really just showing all the electrical work and bathroom fixtures here you can see, and these are electrical lights, LEDs, I think they have on there. And then the purple units are all the overhead heaters that would be installed. See 75,000, 100,000 BTU units. And then that includes all the work to rerun all of the fire suppression system. There is an existing wet system in the building, but we would have to redo a lot of the plumbing off the main line in there to accommodate each unit.
Mike, the proposed drives from the building out to the road, that's the road that in our landscape master plan gets removed, correct?
Correct. And that road is in rough condition. I have a few thoughts on that. I mean, we could look at resurfacing it. That cost is going to be high. The other option would be to basically remove the road from the last unit in this location to Meridian and just do a tie-in back into the concrete roads that are already established in the Commerce Park. In my mind, that'd be the easiest thing to do.
So as the traffic would leave the building, they'd have to go to the west.
Correct. And that way we'd keep it on the concrete roads that are built for the more industrial traffic, you know, if we
And that
resurface
fits
that.
the landscaping plan, you know, that you had to the east.
Yep. So the next step forward is to get a proposal from the architect to get into developing the construction documents that would be put together to go out for bid.
The initial, correct, yes.
We have that proposal.
Do not. I believe the construction documents were included in the original bid, and the going out for bids is additional services I'd get a quote for. I don't think that would take long.
We've already authorized him to do the construction documents for this design.
Correct. Now, if Valio were to come through, that's a completely different design and setup. It would be easy enough to continue a design based off of this. I think it would just be a continuing fee to get that done. The other negotiation, I know Mr. Chair and I discussed this with Valio, was that if they wanted their own construction drawings, that was going to be at their expense for the build out. So if they're doing air conditioners and all that stuff, it would be their expense. We'd be willing to fund it, but would get paid back through the lease.
So, is it possible to move a motion forward? Or is it too early to go out without? Do they need to provide a bid back to us to go out for construction bids?
Continuing professional services, so I believe we could move forward with doing that.
So is it proper then to have a motion made to have them just go out with continuing services to continue that process to go out and get construction bids?
Well, I think we need to authorize them to do the construction documents, correct?
Right.
So, and we've already approved that. So you can simply call them tomorrow and say,
Right.
go ahead and move that. So when that's done,
Yeah.
then we would need to authorize them to actually go out for bids because there's a bidding process.
Okay, so we already approved financially to go out for construction documents that would be used for bids,
Correct.
which are not these.
Right.
No, it's more
Okay.
detail.
Right, it's a lot more
yeah.
detailed. So
Right.
we already have that in our agreement.
Right.
So what
Doing
would,
the actual bidding process would be some additional funding. I don't think it would be a lot, but it would be
Okay.
additional funding.
all right, so that's
So we
good,
can have
yeah.
them move forward right
Yeah.
now.
Yep, perfect.
Is there any reason why anybody thinks we should not move forward? Okay, Mike,
Okay.
talk to the
Does-
architect tomorrow and have him move forward with the construction documents.
Okay. Does the commission, I think the other plan of attack there, I mean, I don't know if there's any feedback from the commission on trying to reduce some of the costs by the wall frame. I can talk to Sarnacki and see what he thinks is feasible on that, or do you want to go out for the full bids?
I'd say there's no reason
No reason
he
not to
shouldn't
go
put
out.
the documents together. Once we get the bids, then we can decide what we don't want to do and what we want to do.
Makes
But
sense
at
to
least
me.
we'll have a price to do the entire thing.
Okay. All right.
All right, good job, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. We'll move on to the next item, which is item number 9, which is the chairman's report. Just like to report that an amount of $6,000, and that was enough to get us to 2 of the, really sort of the 3 locations that we were looking at. So we are moving forward with that, and as soon as that gets done, we'll report back to the commission. Next item is item number 10, which is public comment. No one in the public today, so is there any other business?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Van Oz.
I've done some research on some of the funding for this project. Obviously, we're currently sitting on a note with the township for about $300,000 for the runway, our cost of the runway. I've talked to Ann, and I'm going to be bringing it up at budget. I think probably our best avenue of attack on this whole project would be to go out for about $1 million loan from the township, based on, I'm guessing probably 3.5%. If we go out for bonding on this project, the bond application and bond costs are going to be about $15,000 to $20,000. And because it's a taxable type bond because of what we do, we're going to be out at somewhere in the vicinity of 6%. So my suggestion is, and it's just a suggestion, I need some direction from you guys, is that we go to the township, make them an offer 3.5%, borrow $1,300,000 to pay off the current loan that we have, that portion of it, which would give us about $700,000. And I'm sure that this project is a little bit overpriced, but we do have some money in the bank, and commit to about $1 million, $700,000 for construction costs at about 3.5% with the township. That'll give the township about $35,000 interest annually, stretch it out for 18 years. It sounds like a win-win for everybody. All I have to do is try to sell it, and I think I can, because we got budget time coming up, and I think I'm going to promote this at the budget as though it's a done deal as far as we're concerned. If you guys are in approval of that, and just float that duck and see who shoots at it.
Well, I think that is a very good direction. I like the 18 years. The 3.5%, I think that's for 18 years is a enticing rate of return for the township money instead of the 2% that, we talked. So I think, Ted, that I don't know if there's a better scenario that can exist moving forward with the township in a win-win situation. So I support what you just said wholeheartedly.
Any other comments on it?
Ted, why was 18 years chosen?
Well, everybody gets a little balky at 20, and we can do that and stay within the money that we saved on the bond that's maturing, which was about $80,000. We can fund that within the 18-year time frame, utilizing those funds. So our budget isn't going to change much as it did from last year. Our budget's going to remain about the same. But that's, our total payment would be about $75,800, which is real close to where we were. So I don't see that, I'm trying to prevent stone walls from flying out here, and I think that'll probably do it.
So the 17 or the 18 years takes us closest to what sort of we're paying now.
Right,
Or what's
and
been.
kind of just stretches this thing
Retired.
out,
Yeah.
the current bond.
Without any increase of revenue that we'll get from all these units that we're building.
Well, that's,
Correct.
we deal with that however we want to deal with it.
Well, I'm just saying that with the scenario that you said is keeping us in our budget that we're used to and that we can handle and we have. But with the expenditure of that monies that we would borrow, we would build things that would generate more revenue
absolutely,
on top of all that onto our budget. So our basic expenditure stays the same, but our revenue, by doing what we're doing, and as Daryl put together, if you guys get a chance to look at that and crunch your own numbers with it, our revenue opportunities skyrocket with this. Because not only do we have these 8 units here, but Bogart moves over to Building 62, and they're under one roof with storage. We have also the west side of Building 61 that is going to be wide open, that we can develop indoor storage or something that has a really good space with its own access, and there's already been some interest in that. And we have Bogart's old building that they would be vacating, which is a nice space, which is about 2,000 square feet, right?
Yep.
So we have Bogart's, we have these 8, that's 9, and we have this other unit to the west of the new indoor storage, which would be 10 new facilities that are rentable spaces, desirable square footage rentable spaces of revenue that would go to the top line, or right to our revenue side.
So, yeah, I was just playing with numbers just to see what this thing would take to cash flow. So, so 75,000 would be the cost on that 18-year note. So if we have 7, just out of those 8 units, if we have 7 of them rented at $6 a square foot, that would cover it. That'd be $80,000 a year just on those. Everything else would be gravy. So.
Mike, once these get built out, you got to release them up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, whoever decided to hire Angela was a genius, so oh my gosh, this is like the best time of this airport ever.
Any other open business?
Except what? The Navy, yeah. Go to the Facebook page, the new page set up for the NAS Grows Eel. It is amazing. It is the pictures, the stories. Every day somebody posts something of a story of this place from all the years throughout the base, of people, firsthand, secondhand, family stories. Some of them are hilarious. I mean, it is like some of these things that these guys did were just amazing, but it is a worthwhile Facebook page to get involved with.
Any other items? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Rathel, support by Mr. Tenova to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries.
Good job, boys.